Afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Kanan, and I am the COO of Stranger's Guide. We're an award-winning publication that commissions stories from local writers and photographers to build authentic portraits of place, from Scandinavia and Tehran to Colombia and Lagos. Learn more about what we do at strangersguide.com or connect with me after this session. It is my pleasure to introduce Zola Mashariki, Nate Odenkirk, and Bob Odenkirk. Zola spearheads the creation of all Audible Original programming from concept to release, and has oversight over the entire studio operation, including the development and implementation of content strategy. Mashariki has over 2 decades of experience in developing, producing, and packaging critically acclaimed, award-winning and commercially successful content for film, television, and audio. Nate Odenkirk is a Chicago-based comedy writer. Nate's work regularly appears in The New Yorker, and he was a contributor for The Onion. He co-wrote and executive produced the Audible Original Summer in Argyle, his first major production, which will launch in March 2022 with an event here at South by Southwest. Bob Odenkirk is an Emmy Award-winning comedy writer, producer, actor, and director. Since 2015, Odenkirk has reprised the character he originated on the hit drama Breaking Bad, playing the title role in AMC's Better Call Saul. The final season of Better Call Saul is slated to premiere in 2022. He most recently starred in the action thriller Nobody, which opened at #1 in the U.S. box office. Please welcome the speakers.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us. I'm really happy to be hosting this event with the amazing Nate Odenkirk and Bob Odenkirk, and talking about our project, Summer in Argyle. But before we dive in, we have a trailer that we want to share with you today. So with no further ado, let's roll the trailer.
Once upon a time, in a land of mediocrity, there was a town called Argyle. There lived a celebrated substitute bowler with absolutely no dreams of actually bowling. As fate would have it, the first day he tried would be the last day he lived. That's when an ordinary hot dog eating contest and an extraordinarily sharp lawn dart led to his tragic demise. This is one murder with everything on it. Summer in Argyle. Listen on Audible.
So Audible has spent the last 25 years innovating in audio, and quite frankly, through our chairman and founder, Don Katz, we actually powered into Audible Originals about 20 years ago. And the comedy space is our specialty. So this is super exciting for us, especially because it's from this father-son duo. And I gotta start by asking you, what is the genesis of this project? How did it come into being? We'll start with Nate.
Well, I wanted to make something in my dorm with friends, and we didn't have a theater available to us, and so I wanted to make a podcast, right? So I wrote a draft, I showed it to my dad, and he liked it, and he had the idea to add a murder to it, which is an interesting note to get from an editor, and to pitch it to Audible. And so we did that. You guys have been were so great from the start, so receptive to it, and then it sort of snowballed into this big production. So it was always meant to be a podcast, but the Audible partnership, that was the surprise.
Yeah, there were, the word snowball is a great one because it got bigger and bigger, and did you come up with that?
The term snowball?
Snowball, yeah.
Well, I
because I only know it from cocaine.
Yeah, right.
But it's a thing that kids play with or something. They make a... I only know it as a reference to using drugs.
Yeah.
Okay, so... yeah, Nate wrote this, and he said, Dad, you might want to read it. It's funny, I think. I hope you like it. I'm going to do it with my friends. I thought it was really funny. It had great, comedy concepts in it, and great characters, and a great tone. And I noticed right away, no swearing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, where's this? I'm at a certain point, I'm going crazy. This can't be my son. Where's the swearing? And I thought, when my kids were little, Nate and Aaron, we used to play the old time radio channel on Sirius XM, and I don't know if they still have the old time radio channel, do they? But I used to play it all the time when the kids were little. And when I was young, I loved Firesign Theater, and I also don't know it that well, but I do like The Goon Show, and loved Bob and Ray. Bob and Ray really inspired me when I started in comedy. So reading Nate's podcast, it struck me as having the same tone and the comedy of some of those great older radio comedies. And I hadn't heard anything like it in so long. And then the snowball part is the part where it went from being this fun thing that he was going to do with his friends to a better and stronger and funnier and better project. And then when it went into production, holy shit. I mean, you've seen the cast list. We'll go over it in a second. It's insane.
Tell us about the cast. Don't wait a second. Go.
I wish I had the list in front of me, by the way.
Oh my God. Well,
Let's try to do it. Let's try to knock them out.
Yeah, let's do it.
Names.
Okay. So
I have to ask Mama because she knows.
So it's John Ennis, Jill Talley, Tom Kenny, David Cross, Tim Robinson, Brian Posehn, John C. Riley, you're big,
Carl Tart,
Stephanie
Shu,
Sabrina Rios, who's fantastic, Asia Bullock, and Lyric Lewis. We got Carl Tart. Yeah, we can say it
Anybody
twice.
Anybody else?
Paul F. Tompkins.
Stephanie Courtney. Holy.
Andrew Friedman, Michael Naughton.
Michael Naughton. Such funny people. The funniest people in LA. And they all said yes right away, which I didn't expect. And, it's during the pandemic. And, did we mention Tim Robinson?
We said
we
Tim
did
Robinson,
mention Tim Robinson. And I think people were going a little crazy. This was, nothing about the pandemic has been fun or good, but it was a scary part of it all. And I think people thought this brings some of this really fun, silly comedy into my life would be wonderful. And Eben Schletter spearheaded the production, and Woo is right. Eben Schletter did all the music for Mr. Show. And he's a master of orchestration and composition and execution of music and sound design. So this is really sound design. There's a lot of podcasts that are a couple funny people improvising, and that's great. A lot of them are my friends. Good for them. They took your money and they went into a studio and dicked around for 3 hours. Good for them. They're getting away with murder. I love it. But we wanted to build a world, and we put the time and effort into this. I think you'll know if you listen what I'm talking about. Nobody's done anything like this that I know of in decades. And I got to go back to the Firesign Theater because they really cared about sound design and environmental, bringing the world to life. And Eben Schletter and everybody. And
Tim Kalpakis was the director from Birthday Boys.
The Birthday Boys, a wonderful group of sketch writers and performers. Tim Kalpakis is one of them, and he directed the show with Nate. And so it was a real team effort, and all the performers went fucking crazy. Paul F. Tompkins, Stephanie Courtney singing jazz.
It's great. So they're singing jazz about falling in love at the DMV. And that's not the weirdest part of the episode. Not at all.
Yeah, and everybody just had so much fun. And I think almost everybody sings.
Yes, almost. I'd
let's
say.
see.
Yeah.
Paul sings a lot.
Yes.
Stephanie sings.
Yeah.
David Cross.
David Cross sings a jingle where he's not a lawyer, but he needs a lawyer, and so
he does a commercial. He's
a
person who does a commercial for I need a lawyer.
Yeah, he's in big trouble. He needs a lot of help, and he promises that he's fun to work with and he's innocent. So he sort of talks that jingle. It's just, there's a lot of musical moments in the play, in the Audible original, and I think that they're scattered throughout the piece in such a way that like there's always one coming up. I think there's at least one or two every episode. You sing a hot dog carol, a song about finding hot dogs in a Christmas. Just listen to it.
Yeah, let's backtrack for a second. Let's share with them what it's about first.
Oh, yeah.
And we should point out that your mom produced this. So this is a family affair, very talented family. But what was it like to get notes from mom and dad?
Yeah.
Try only say nice things. Remember what we talked about? Remember what we talked about up in the room? Remember? I said, now you can't leave this room until you fucking promise me you were gonna fucking say nice things. Just hang on.
They're a delight. It's as good as you could ever as you could think. Getting notes from your parents on a creative endeavor. It's a joy. No, it really was great because you know what? They believed in me a lot, and you guys are great.
In a way, we started in a great place because I didn't even know he wrote this. He just went and wrote it, so I could have read it and gone, oh, it's really funny, have fun with your friends. And he would have said, great, Dad, thanks so much. And it wouldn't have been an issue. There was no, because I knew that I was reading it and going, this is already good. There's already great bits in here and this world, and the tone mattered to me a lot. Because when my kids were little, I played the old time radio, and I love the idea of something young people around. Look, it's not for kids only. I don't want to make it sound like that, but Nate hadn't used any swear words or any sort of blue language or issues in there. And
look, if I wanted to make something that your parents on a road trip could put on and they could enjoy, and it would shut the kids up too. I wanted to do both of those things.
And kids, especially kids around the age of 9, 10, 11, 12, they get way into advertising and the way in which it's a lie. Their brains start to catch on that like advertisements are not, they're a con. And they laugh, they smile and laugh at them. You'll see that. I remember you and all your friends would laugh about advertising and advertisements. And so every episode starts with a funny advertisement for something in the town. And so it's not written for kids, but I love that right away I could picture somebody enjoying it who likes crazy comedy, who likes Mr. Show, who likes Tim and Eric. There's something for them because it's very unhinged. It's really like, some of you might know improvisation and you might know The Herald, which is a long-form improvisation. And it's got some qualities of a herald to it in that we just chase ideas and then we reincorporate for sure. But to a certain extent, we keep chasing the idea wherever it goes. And that's not something you get to do in most mediums. You really are needing always to go back to your original concept and not just sort of entertain yourself as much. And it's so you guys let us do that. The piece, as it was written by Nate, originally did that. So we preserve that quality. And I'll tell you, I think that not only did all these wonderful actors and actresses say yes, they would do it, they showed up and tore into it. I mean, beginning to end. It's one thing to say, will you sing this song or will you do this part? And then Bob's my friend, I got to do it, which nobody had that attitude. But I could see.
They're not his friends.
But I could see if that had happened. Like, I would have understood if I heard somebody's performance and said, oh, he thought I needed him to do this, and they just showed up. Everybody just tore into it because we just don't get that. We just don't get, and I think they could see, like, oh, I get to be really funny here. I can just go nuts. And so David Cross, one of the first things that happens, look, I'm just super proud of this. It's so much fun. But early on, in the first episode, David is running his character.
Second episode, top of the second
Top of the second episode is running across the street. And there's cars, almost hitting him, and he's running past people. And Eben Schletter and the production team built this world around him, and he acted it with so much glee. You can just tell how much fun David's having, pretending to run across a busy street and almost get hit by cars. And
he runs into 4 trash cans, too. So if you wanted to hear that, you can. That's in Summer in Argyle.
I could just tell how much fun my friend was having doing this silly comedy. And that goes for everybody, and certainly for Paul Tompkins and Stephanie Courtney and Andrew Friedman. And you could just tell these are performers that are just cutting loose.
And what are some of the challenges and positives of working in audio? What did you love? What did you feel made it harder?
Well, I loved it because the whole concept of using theater of the mind to sort of, Eben's work and the dialogue and the world that we build suggests an environment, and then it's up to the people listening to it to have their creative minds sort of work and build a world that makes sense to them within the story. And so, the thought of people picturing Argyle,
like when I'm standing on a tree branch, talking to somebody else in a tree.
For 2 episodes, he's stuck in a tree, and you hear the creaking and all of that stuff.
You hear the branch creaking and birds coming around.
You and John C. Reilly are stuck in a tree for 2 episodes for 2 different reasons. They find each other in the tree, and they're like, "You're stuck here too?" Yeah. And then they stay that way for 2 episodes because they can't find a ladder anyway. Theater of the mind, like that's what I'm talking about.
So much fun. Yeah, I love this kind of performance and radio comedy. And as I said, I was inspired by it as a kid. I also loved Monty Python's Matching Tie and Handkerchief album. Great comedy album with 3 sides. Who knows what I'm talking about? Raise your hand. You know what I'm talking about. It has 3 sides, right? There's 2 grooves that run on one side. And depending on which one you set, you don't even know what you're going to get when you set the needle down. Anyhow, I love that stuff, and we delivered big time, but I'm not going to take credit for that. I'm giving the credit to Eben Schletter and Tim Kalpakis and Nate. And who else really helped us with that?
My gosh.
Josh Poole.
Josh Poole, yeah, definitely. I mean, certainly it comes down to Eben. Eben would send us drafts late at night, and they would be so good. He'd be like, "Is this okay?" And I'm like, "This is greater than I could have ever imagined," like fawning. It was just so good.
It's fun to work in this context, and I think you might find, if you listen, the thing I felt, which was like, nobody's done this in forever. I'm listening to it, I'm loving it. I'm thinking, when was the last time anyone tried to do this? It's hard to believe that it's been, nobody's made a run at it. I think there have been sort of not half-hearted runs, but just people with less, they're just trying less. But we wanted to shoot for the moon on this thing.
You guys went all in.
Yeah.
So we heard a lot about Bob's influences. What are your comedic influences, Nate?
Yeah, I was born certainly in this century. I would say, I would say that certainly Tim and Eric, their weirdness makes its way somewhat into Summer in Argyle. That was huge for me growing up. Tom Goes to the Mayor, Tim and Eric Awesome Show, Bedtime Stories. I'm their biggest fan, and I love their, like, the zaniness and the creativity is something that I took to heart, really. And also, frankly, Mr. Show is my favorite show of all time. It just is. It's great. And I'm going to ask for an autograph later. That'd be super cool. Don't mean to put you on the spot, you know? Like, I know you're working, but... what else? I think there's this great, very small podcast that Absolutely Productions put out over the last couple of years called This is Branchburg, which was about a small town in New Jersey. And they did silly things. There's no story connecting all of those pieces together, but I thought, what if there was a story? Let's have a richer town. Let's take something like that and do a whole new spin on it, something like that. So that was a good comedic influence on me, certainly in terms of using a podcast to build a world and not just to talk. I'd say that those are the big ones.
And
yeah.
when I was young, I know you already heard all my influences,
No, I
but
wanna hear.
I always wanted Lake Wobegon to be a funnier place. I mean, I like what he was doing there, and obviously that represented Garrison Keillor's sensibility, and so God bless him for doing it. But I always wanted it to be funnier, just like go for the jokes more, man. But because you're making the place up, don't worry, it's okay. It's not real. So to me, it's like a little bit of that too. It's like trying to touch base with that, but take it through the roof as far as being silly and funny. I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Naperville, Illinois. I've been living in Hollywood for a long time, but I'm very much consider myself a Chicago Midwestern person. The longer I live in Hollywood, the more I feel like I'm from Chicago. And so I love, Indiana and Wisconsin. And when Nate was young, I took he and his sister around the whole Midwest, and we listened to Team of Rivals on audio. So I don't know. They loved it.
Has nothing to do.
They were
with
like
Summer
11
in
and
Argyle.
9, but they listened to that.
That's a
whole
book about Abraham Lincoln's cabinet. That has no influence on Summer in Argyle. It is a fantastic book, absolutely, but
in no way.
In no way is it historically relevant or accurate in any way.
But the point is, we did listen to pieces on Audible with the kids, and they loved it too.
And what is the future for this collaboration as well as for Argyle?
Well,
I know what I want to happen.
Well, let's see. Give people a chance. You might have to just simmer down a little bit as it plays, I think people are going to love it and find it to be a fresh run at Theater of the Mind, radio theater, and something very modern. I would like it to live on into many more iterations. So I've talked to Nate already about that. But I love the characters in it. I especially love Dr. Van Vinney, Paula Tompkins. Oh, we didn't talk about what it's about? Okay, well, it's about, there's a town called Argyle. It is a town that celebrates second place. The people who don't participate even in the sports event.
Because that was always me, I never, I always sat out at PE class. Asthma is a wonderful excuse, everybody. Gift from God, let me tell you.
And so it's a town that celebrates sort of falling short, and they're very happy about that, which is kind of a wonderful positivity that everybody in town shares. Every year in this town, there is one murder. It's just what happens. It's got to happen, and everyone's waiting for it to happen, especially the main police officer who we follow, played by Tim Robinson. And he's waiting and looking and kind of, like you can imagine being one of the police officers in town, and it's July, and there hasn't been a murder yet. It's got to happen. 6 months left. Let's go. And so there is a death at a hot dog hunt and eat. You've heard of hot dog, contests, hot dog eating contests, but this town combines it with a hot dog hunt. So first you have to find the hot dogs, then you need to find enough so that you can win the contest and eat them. If you only find 10 hot dogs, you're not going to win this contest. So they hide a lot.
I don't think we need to patronize them. They know what a hot dog hunt and eat is. That's standard.
So at this event, this terrible, horrible, crime happens, and then there's an investigation of sorts that includes an autopsy, and people sing and dance, and you get to know this town, and eventually
that's the
everybody's
key.
okay.
Yeah, is that
and eventually the dead high schooler, played by Brian Posehn beautifully, even though Brian is 40-something years old, he still sounds like a really annoyed, snotty teenager. Eventually, he is memorialized by being buried underneath the town laundromat and historical museum.
Society. Yeah, he's turned into a robot who says 3 things, and they're all, "I'm dead." That's it. That's it. That's what he says. That's what the town does to memorialize him. In the end. It really is. There is a story to it. The bigger picture is it's a chance to get to know the people and places of this really crazy, weird town where they have their own set of logic, and the story is certainly there, but there's a bigger emphasis on, like you said, Dr. Van Veeney, played by Paul F. Tompkins, who is a surgeon who is also a magician, children's magician.
And when you say also, you don't mean sometimes he's a magician.
It's half and half.
He's always both a magician and a surgeon.
Yeah, and
so when he's doing surgery, he's still a magician.
Sometimes he can't remember whether he cut somebody in half as part of a trick or if that was actually like under anesthetics and he's operating on them. It's great.
So basically, it's whatever crazy idea came into his head.
That's right. Yeah, that's it.
And we just have a great time with it.
It's super fun and such a romp and so zany and unique.
Thank you.
And that's why I'm like, what is the future of this show? There's got to be more.
Yes, it's pure frosting. You cake and it's just the frosting. Which is a kid's
Which is
drink.
what I ate when I was a kid. That's what they served me. Just gobs of it.
And how is it working? I mean, you said Mr. Show is like one of your favorites. So what was it like to work with people who you admired? You grew up around many of them. So talk to us about that.
It was amazing to see my idols in comedy and in my life perform my work and take my notes and take me seriously. It was amazing. I could not have asked for a better cast. Everybody was so nice and lovely, and we all believed in this project. To have somebody you really admire believe in the work that you're doing is very special. And that's the experience that I got with Argyle. Everybody really wanted it to work. And because everybody put so much effort into it and love and care, it turned out to be this really, what I think is a really great project. And that's great that there's a great project, but the fact that I got to work with all these stellar people who I've looked up to for my whole life is, yeah, that's very special. Yeah.
And I know that we're going to open it to questions, but before we get there, I just want to ask one more about timeline. How long ago did you write it? How long did it take to get all the cast involved? And then how long for recording it and to get to here?
Yeah, I started writing it in October of 2019, and then Audible got involved early-ish 2020. We had the deal finalized with you guys about halfway through then. And then it was a year and a half of rewriting between Bob and I. And then around early spring of 2021, we were in production. And we sat in for on Zoom all of those recording sessions. Eben was there for many of them. Recorded all the way through the summer, and then it went into post. We finished on my birthday. We finished the final script edition and sent it off to you guys. It came out yesterday.
Then the mix was a lot of
yeah,
work.
yeah.
I mean, you guys, I said, not many people have tried to do this kind of audio creation of the whole world with a lot of detail to it. Is because it's a lot of work. I mean, it was a ton of work.
Yeah.
So it took a long time, and Eben Schletter killed himself, but we are the beneficiaries because it's great.
Yeah, it was really great. I mean, it was about 2.5 years from Genesis to when it finished, and it was great. Yeah.
And what's next for you, Nate?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Does anybody? I didn't prepare for this one. I think
Nate said, "Continue to write."
Yeah, I want. But the goal, candidly, that I set for myself would be I would love to write for SNL in the next couple of years. That would be
even though
my dream.
If you read my book, you see what a bad time I had there.
Yeah, yeah. Very excited to start your book. That's going to be great. Like I said, I haven't had a free moment to myself. But when I do, and when I do all the things that I want to do, I'll get to your book. And I'm looking forward to that book very much. I've heard things about it.
And Bob, you're on your book tour now.
I am touring with the book that I put out, my memoir, showbiz memoir, and the next big thing is the premiere of the season 6 of Better Call Saul. Thank you. I am so excited. If you saw the trailer yesterday, you know why I'm excited, because it's the best work we've done. It's really, really gripping, surprising, truthful, and astounding. And even I watched that trailer and went, really? It's fucking great. And so if you haven't seen that trailer, check it out. So I'll be telling people about season 6 soon, because it'll premiere on April 18th. And then I'm doing a project with David Cross and Bill Odenkirk, my brother. We're going to do Guru Nation, a show for Paramount Plus, where we play different gurus. It's about time.
So we have some questions from the audience. We're going to go straight to those. I guess we'll start with the David Cross one.
Oh, you want to start with that one? Because I actually like that first question. Can we read it?
Sure. Did you create your own folio? Did you use a library? And how did that creative process work for selecting how full to make the sound? How full?
Well, I want to answer this, Nick Corey, because so much hard work went into building the world.
2 first names.
And I want to give, Nate, do you want to say anything about that? I'm going to guess that we created our own library of sounds. I'm going to guess that the reason that Eben Schletter's calling you at 2 a.m. is because he spent, 5 hours doing the sound of leaves in the trees?
Well, it's half and half because Eben has a vast library of sound effects. He's been working for decades and decades as a sound engineer and musician, and so we got to benefit from so much incredible Foley that he just had on his computer. Audible gave us access to an amazing library of their own, and then add on top of that, there are a lot of moments that Eben just made on his own. There are moments of loading the laundry. He didn't have that, so he had to load. There's a scene where 1 million hot dogs are dumped out of a dump truck and hit the ground, and they didn't have that.
Yeah.
And so Eben bought 1 million No, he didn't. But he made it sound like he bought 1 million. He had to do that himself, and his kids are in it. He's in it. His voice is in the background in I think 3 or 4 episodes. Eben was so committed to it that yes, it was mostly from this wealth of sound effects that he already had, but there was he had no problem making it himself. So it's a mostly from a library and some original pieces of Foley. Yeah,
That must have been so fun.
it was amazing. Yeah.
I can't wait for you to hear it, guys. I can't wait, and just put on some headphones and lose yourself in Argyle, because the work is there, and it'll come to life in your mind.
And I play, the only contribution I make into the play is I play a bird in episode 9. So listen for that. Yeah.
Go ahead, son. Let's hear it.
That's
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
That's it. I have no other role in the show. So when you're listening and you're like, I've heard that bird chirp before, it's Nate Odenkirk.
Can you do that again so I can say only on Audible right after?
That's it.
Only on Audible will you hear that. Thank you. There's some really good questions here. So you have a visual style comedically. Did you find it difficult to adapt to primarily audio-based medium? That's a really good question.
Well, I did not. I love writing it and thinking about it. But again, as we've said now, the credit for how well it was done has to go to the production team, because they just dug in a way I haven't seen in a long time. Love doing it.
But also, that does open up a can of worms where it's like, how can we pull off a visual gag in a podcast style format or an audiobook style format, where it truly is just theater of the mind, and sound design comes down to it. And also, there are a lot of creative workarounds that you just have to do. For example, on July 4th in the town, there is not a fireworks celebration. There's somebody telling you what fireworks that the town didn't purchase, and saying, "Oh, this explodes into 5-point stars," and you hear the audience go, "Oh, wow," as if they were actual fireworks. But he's just telling you about a fireworks celebration. That's how we got around that one. that one was a doozy. But it does create a new challenge, but it's something that, with creativity and perseverance, you can absolutely get around.
Bob, do you think stand-up comedy is a harder start in entertainment than starting in traditional acting?
Oh, wow. The good thing about stand-up, Brian, is that you can write your stuff or your material and you just get up and do it. There's open mic nights, there's alternative nights, and you can do it. Traditional actors are going to go to school and they're going to try to get in an acting company, and they're going to be a substitute. They're not going to get the lead role, and they have to kind of wait in line, whereas the stand-up gets to just bring their material up on stage and just do that thing that they want to do. But of course the stand-up is in a club full of drunks, so that makes that hard. But I'm still going to vote that traditional acting is harder, because that ability to just do that thing you want that stand-up has, to me, that's a big plus.
And I guess similarly, Nate, how do you approach writing the script for a podcast versus writing for a series and comedy show? I guess both of you guys. And what processes were similar versus what was different?
I'd say that when it came to writing Summer in Argyle specifically, I knew how open you guys were to crazy ideas and weird concepts. And as married as we are to the story, Argyle is really just about the people in the town. And so I wrote with, we wrote with no limitations, really, because you guys were so open to just being weird about it.
Being inventive.
Yeah, that was really great. So I think it has less to do with the medium and more to do with who you're writing it for, absolutely.
I don't think I've ever been on a project except Mr. Show where I felt this free to just be funny. Just go, well, that's the funniest thing to do right now, so let's do that.
That's exciting. That question disappeared, but I liked it.
Questions just jumped around.
Nate, you said you started writing this in college. I'm curious what your creative process looked like and how your college life bled into the writing process.
I did. I started writing it in college because I wanted to make something, and I love writing. It's my favorite thing to do. And so I had a mic in my dorm, and I had some friends who were very funny people, and I just locked myself in my room, and I didn't come out until it was done. The first draft, that's not true, but, you know, creatively, I was I just committed myself very much to it. College was a secondary pursuit, I would say. I mean, you know, obviously I tried, and I was a good student, but writing this gave me so much more fulfillment that I isolated the two, sort of. There were times where I worked on my schoolwork, and there were times where I wrote the podcast, and neither the twain met because I wanted to have a place where I could escape from college and have fun in this world, this crazy fun world. I hope that's what it is for you guys, too, who listen to it. I hope it's an escape from a reality that might not be the best thing ever. Yeah, boy, do we need it
right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you make these projects and you don't know what the world's going to be like when it comes out, and it's you know, I was kind of hoping, as everybody was, that the pandemic would end and stakes would go down for daily life in this world, but stakes just got jacked up through the roof because of Putin, and so maybe this is a great time for something that's pure nonsense, to just lose yourself in for a break from the pressures of our world right now. I hope it is. I hope it makes people happy, and I do think that, you know, a lot of times, Ted Lasso is so great because it's this vibe that we haven't seen in so long. You know, it's almost like a Mayberry vibe. You know, it's warm and it's unapologetically positive, and you know, we need these things to balance out the world we're living in. And right now, Summer in Argyle is the opposite side of the the stakes spectrum from the real world right now.
I totally agree. You mentioned that you recorded all summer. Did you record ensemble with cast, or actors alone in booths, or a combination?
Much of the time, they were in their home, and Audible sent them the recording equipment for it, and we would Zoom. Bob would join for many of the sessions, but it mostly was myself and Tim and Eben once we were in the latter half of production. And so...
in fact, the only things that were done as group things were...
That's right, yes,
what
group
were they?
things. So that was Jill Talley and Tom Kenny, who are together, obviously.
Married,
they're married. And they play sportscasters who are divorced recently, and they have to comment do color commentary together, and so they're just sniping back and forth with it's great. But they were in the same room, and so that allowed them to play off of each other. And when
it's amazing to me how well it works. So the scenes between David Cross and Andrew Friedman.
Yeah, there are scenes with the entire town council. So that would be Stephanie Courtney Carltart, David Cross, and then with John C. Reilly's character and Mary Hollis in Bowden, who I neglected to mention earlier. She was fantastic in it. That's 5 people plus I think a couple people in the audience. And those were all recorded at different points. But when they were put together, they sounded amazing. Like they were all in the room. You know, doing it isolated because of COVID didn't really put a strain on our project because the cast was so good and worked so naturally to the characters that they played that it all makes sense when we put it all together. Yeah.
That's one of the super cool things about working in audio, especially during COVID. We're able to send the kids to people's homes. I mean, we barely had any shutdown, which is great. Like, I mean, in this medium, you can direct over Zoom, you can communicate with people. That's pretty cool.
I do think that it's one of the reasons we even got this cast was they were at home and couldn't do much else. And so they were happy to have a project that, and of course it was pure funny, which was even better. Yeah.
Yeah, and people needed, I mean, this was a great pick-me-up. What's the difference between you find and how a Midwesterner approaches humor over someone from either coast? And we're not talking about Argyle specifically.
Well, I think Midwesterners are generally funnier. Sorry.
That was the right answer.
Sorry, everybody else. There's kind of a strain of humor that runs through their daily life. And, you know, we said it in Ohio, we talk about second place, and we come in second, and we sit on the back bench, and that's great. That's why we're great. And it sounds like maybe we're critiquing Ohio, but I really think it's about a Midwestern point of view on things where you feel like I personally, like I said, feel very much like a Chicagoan, and I feel like it's that attitude of being in the back of the room, of the schoolroom, and making fun of everything that's going on, the teacher, the students who are talking and interacting with the teacher. And I used to always sit in the back of the classroom because I could talk to my friends, make little drawings, tell jokes, and be silly and make fun of shit. And that's just a Midwestern thing to do, is to be, we're not in the forefront, we're the second city, you know, and we get, because of our position, we get to, I don't know, it's like we're free to critique and knock things down a peg. And that's a lot of good humor comes from that, I think, that point of view on life. Nate's from LA, so he doesn't get to claim that. He just grew up around it.
Do you think the coasts are funnier?
He's in Chicago now. He lives in Chicago. So.
I think whatever.
You see all the young performers in Chicago.
They're great. Many of them are my friends. Chicago is the place to be for comedy. In terms of comedy sensibilities, I mean, I think everybody can laugh at themselves, you know. But I think that there is a special brand of self-effacing humor that Midwesterners, on the whole, get. You know, people on the coast sometimes love themselves too much, and that can sometimes, if they don't get the joke, you know, I don't know. The broader point is that I think everybody can enjoy something like this, and I love being in Chicago for the kind of comedy that they do. Definitely, yeah.
And Nate, what did you get to teach your father about comedy while working on this project? And I'm going to add, what did you learn from your father while working on this project?
Well, I taught him all the basics. Really, he's, you know, took him a little while, but he picked up on them later enough. It's the Socratic method.
The rule of threes.
Rule of threes.
Words that end in K are funny.
Yes, and was big for him. The best thing that he taught me was to just keep writing and work hard, and it'll fall into place eventually. The thing that people recognize about you, and appreciate about you is ultimately the work that you do. And that is it's a basic thing to say, but that was instilled into me by living with you guys growing up, and it was very, very important. That's how I conduct myself now. So thank you. But I don't know.
I submitted that question, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know. What did I teach you? Anything? Oh God.
I mean,
you can only pick
reminded
one.
me. You reminded me of the joy of pure silliness.
Okay.
Because I'd gone away from that into deep and intense drama. But boy, I needed a little of that craziness in my life. So I love this. Ever been in a real eating contest? Favorite hot dog you ever ate? Can we answer that one? I'm going to say the favorite hot dog I ever ate was the one I just had at Bangers.
Really?
Do they make their own
really
hot
good.
dogs? I mean, I don't know where that thing's from. I had 2 of them. I ate 2 whole ones.
So
Believe
clearly
me.
he's never been in an eating contest. Or 2 is a record.
I wouldn't do an eating contest, but it was great. And do they make their own hot dogs? Or
They do.
it was so good. So that was my favorite hot dog. Second favorite would be the hot dogs at Wrigley Field.
And I hinted at this already because I know I want more, but will there be any other seasons of Argyle? Or are we just stuck with summer?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, literal seasons, yeah.
I would like to do more of this kind of humor in my life. I think it's great. I think it's rare. And so I hope there will be more seasons.
Yeah, I hope people enjoy this season, and it makes them, it makes them happy. That would be great in terms of future. I think I'm open to it, certainly.
Yeah. I'm a good narrator.
Yeah, right.
I need to narrate. Your dad needs to narrate something. Give me something to narrate.
There's 3 other seasons to narrate.
I hope so.
Winter, spring.
I hope so.
fall.
Oh, that's true.
That's right. It's sort of built in, isn't it? There's a built-in promise with summer in Argyle. It's like, we're not done. There's 3 other seasons.
Absolutely. Do you think that there's a life that will continue with the television adaptation following the success of the podcast?
I don't know, but I'm picturing it in my head when I listen, but that might be what's great about it. Having said that, I would love to see it played out for me. So I don't know. I mean, Garrison Keillor sure milked the shit out of Wobegon. So
And maybe it's our turn in the honey pot.
yeah, it's our turn to wring that rag dry.
Oh, this is a good one. Nate, any desire to be in front of the camera or microphone?
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, what it ultimately comes down to is I know so many people my age who are unbelievable actors, incredible actors, and my thought is like, just let them do it. They're good. I don't need to go in front of the camera. When you see somebody who's so much better than you at it and they're your age, you're like, well, all right. See ya, goodbye. And then you leave. But in terms of but when it comes to writing, I can see myself succeeding and being a good writer. So it's more I can visualize ultimately being a writer. But yeah, I'd like to act. That'd be fun. I mean, I don't know. I could do it.
Yeah, I mean, Nate was the lead in his play, and at Oakwood, you were the lead twice.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was mentioned, but I play the bird in episode 9. And people are saying that's the breakout star of the show. They're like, put everything on 3 times speed until you get to episode 9, then slow it down. Listen to it at 0.5 speed. You're gonna, it's high replayability, definitely. Yeah.
And what was it like reuniting with David Cross?
So much fun that I'm going to do it again on Guru Nation. But it was just a blast. And I just love what he did. And he embraced the theater of the mind, the radio theater of this project. And so wait till you hear him. He's just having a great time. And I'm so happy that he joined us.
And of all the birthday boys, did you want to answer?
No, I agree. David Cross was amazing to work with, and he did such a great job. Just a great job.
And of all the birthday boys, how and why did you choose Tim Kalpakis to direct this?
Tim Kalpakis is how I say it, but
Kalpakis.
I don't know. Nobody's ever told me the right way to say it, so I think you might be onto something.
That question's funny, as if those were our only options for directors, was the birthday boys, and we just picked Tim out in a lineup.
Okay, so the Birthday Boys are a sketch group. We did a show on IFC. It's really funny. I don't think it's available anywhere now, but if you like sketch comedy, you really should check it out. There's a lot of great stuff in there.
But that said, we could have picked someone who was not a birthday boy to direct this.
Yes, we weren't. There's no
Absolutely.
law that you have to use a birthday boy.
Yeah,
Tim is just very silly. He's a very silly guy, and he's really good at really lighthearted humor, and that's what this piece is. And so I thought that it married up with his sensibility really well. And he's just a friendly, good guy who, we sent him the project so he could hear it and understand it first, or rather so he could read it. And he just got the humor of it.
Yeah, also Tim Kalpakis has experience with podcasts before and being in a role similar to that prior, so it just made sense to work with him, and he was a delight to work with. Just great.
But out of all the birthday boys,
Really
how
gonna
did you
trust me on this? Okay.
There's
So we rolled a dice.
We rolled a seven-sided dice.
Seven-sided dice, and Tim came up.
Well,
That's how Hollywood works, folks. That's it.
Who was the first actor to sign on to the project?
Naomi? Me.
Him.
After Bob.
John Ennis was the first one to say
John
yes.
Ennis from Mr. Show.
Yeah. If you ever get a chance, if you're ever in LA, go see a show at the Yard Theater. That's his theater. He loves getting people onto stage, and he loves getting people into acting. He knew me, and he was very excited to do this role, and he plays the vice principal of the high school, and he's always angry. Every line he's angry, and John Ennis just does a wonderful job with that. But yeah, John Ennis was the first, and he was very enthusiastic about it. Yeah.
I think we have 2 more questions. So, was the environmental audio developed prior to the actors' dialogue recordings, or was it informed by
It was
dialogue?
informed. The world was built around these. The performances were recorded first. The dialogue was recorded, and then Eben killed himself to build this world around them. So.
And what do you consider to be the secret to effectively balancing the comedy and the dramatic elements of a story?
What do I consider the secret? I don't know if there's a secret there. They're almost without question, there's always some comedy in your drama, and there's always some drama in your comedy if you're doing it right. But the equation changes depending on the piece and the writing and what's the best tone to make the most out of the piece as it's written. And it can be hard to figure out that balance. So you have to just work with the material. And I think probably one of the most surprising things about this project is people did this, like we said, separately, and it all comes together. Because that would be a recipe for it not working, is that you're not in the same room to find the tone together. But I think it had to do with how most of the performers are such veteran performers in this show. And also that Nate and Tim Kalpakis directed. Someone was there. That's what a director's job is in a lot of ways, is to dial everybody in to just the right amount of drama or comic performance or irony or distance or earnestness, and get that just right so that it fits with everyone else's performance and the pitch of the whole piece. So it's a complicated answer because it's a complicated problem. So
I'd say, like, as long as when it comes to you're writing something that intends to be funny or dramatic, if you set the tone and you don't forget that tone as you're writing it, that helps. You know, like it doesn't just go off into a little rabbit hole. If you remember, okay, I set out to make something that is, and the rest of my writing is in line with what I'm currently doing, the scene that I'm writing right now, then it'll fit. Like, the balancing between comedy and drama, get it set, and then
just so you
don't forget it.
Summer in Argyle is heavily balanced towards the comedy.
Well, that's my last question for both of you guys, which is, as these guys listen to Summer in Argyle, what is it that you want them to take away from it? What is the experience you want them to have?
I want you to laugh and smile and forget your cares and woes. Just have a great time visiting this town we invented.
Yeah, that's it. Don't think about it too hard.
Don't think.
Yeah, just accept the insanity. Yeah. I hope you guys like it. I really do. Yeah.
Well, thank you to Nate and Bob Odenkirk, and I hope you guys enjoy our Audible Original Summer in Argyle.